Hello and welcome to an author's commentary on The Monitor of Fynfaer, a short story written by me which you should really go and read or listen to before you watch this video. This is the second of my monthly short stories, although it feels like it's been far longer than a month since a Waxwork Purgatory. I know it hasn't, but I have to keep checking and reminding myself that I haven't missed a month. In the month since writing that story, I have begun an entire shared fictional universe with different areas within which to write some of my short stories, and that is what I have spent the bulk of this month doing, because you may have noticed that the Monitor of Fynfaer is a lot shorter than a Waxwork Purgatory. Part of that is just fine, because some short stories are going to be shorter than others. In fact, the Monitor of Fynfaer is actually more in tune with the kind of length of my older short stories than a Waxwork Purgatory, which is a lot longer than the kind of short story I normally write. But I'd like to think it is also due to the fact that I've spent weeks kind of creating this universe, which I don't want to talk too much about because it is still very much under construction, but you saw a fairly cosmological level glimpse of it within this short story. I've created for myself a blueprint of the universe and a timeline of events in the order in which they happen on a cosmological level, but the general idea of this shared universe is just that I don't have to recreate the rules of like magic and stuff every single time I create a new short story, but I also leave enough wiggle room for me to have the creative level with which I want to write these kinds of things. So for instance, magic, when mortals attain it, is in a primordial form which can be shaped into whichever way the mortals see fit. So one society may be able to wield magic, as in, like, you know, you've got traditional elemental mages who throw fireballs at each other and frost spells at each other and stuff like that, and then another has an idea which is a bit more unique, which I want to save for a story if I actually write it. But the Monitor of Fynfaer is actually a fairly cosmological level, because you get to see a little bit of a behind the scenes of the angels and what they're up to in this world, and what their role is, and their non-intervention policy, and how that sits with our protagonist Aedeus, who is a name which I came up with on the spot that I really like. So the general idea is to flesh this world out with various short stories, and some of them will be on a more cosmological level like this one, and some of them will just be set within the same universe, but you wouldn't really know anything about it. And the aim is to make every short story fairly self-contained, and if I write a longer novel later down the line within this world, all for the better. But I wanted to write this because I think it gives a fairly good introduction of the general tone of this world, because it shows that the angels aren't entirely benevolent. From their point of view, they are, but I mean, come on. I'm not just going to write about purges and say that it's an inherently good thing, am I? I've never been much of a plotter for my stories, which is a terrible thing to admit, but it's true. I tend to write my stories as they come to me spontaneously and then edit them afterwards to try and make them make sense. So I've never spent so long I mean, again, I didn't exactly plot the events of this short story, but I've never spent so long creating a backdrop for a short story before writing the actual events in it, and it felt good. Is this why people do this? It was an interesting challenge to try and weave some of the things I've written for myself, which no one's ever going to see, about the way the universe is, and try and weave them into a narrative that people will enjoy, and not to overload it with exposition. And I have to say, I do think this short story is fairly expository in nature. There's not a lot that actually happens. It's more just a glimpse or a snapshot into the world of a monitor. But I think it's more interesting than just publishing a timeline of events that happen in a world where you don't get to actually exist with any of the characters in this space, you know? I actually had two completely different ideas for stories which were going to occur, both around the demon aspect of this universe, because there is also a demon aspect of this universe which does not get mentioned in this short story at all. But I don't know, something just clicked. This morning I thought, well, I've got this week off, I should probably put some time into writing, but I didn't feel like writing any more of the previous two ideas which I'd already had. Hopefully people enjoyed the glimpse into this universe I've given them. Hopefully it set up a few things, giving you a general idea of the tone I'm going for. But again, there'll probably be short stories one day which are just set in a fantasy village on an unnamed planet, and it'll be part of this universe, but it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with the cosmological events of this universe. If that sounds good to you, well, I'm glad. If it doesn't sound good to you, don't worry, because there's also going to be plenty of short stories which aren't set in this universe at all. For instance, a Waxwork Purgatory is not part of this universe because it doesn't fit, and I'm not going to try and make it fit. I mean, I probably could make it fit if I really wanted to, but I mean, there's no point. And some stuff I just want to have, while I'm giving myself as much creative liberty as I can with this universe, which I'm going to be contributing to over many years, I also want to have the complete liberty of just making something completely fresh. One last thing I want to mention, I know this short story doesn't really have an ending, but I didn't want to try and force an ending, if you know what I mean. Like, it just kind of ends with Aedeus thinking about things and thinking about, he's having this moral quandary. I guess it feels more like a chapter in a larger story than it does a short story in its own right with a satisfying ending. But that is a problem I have with a lot of my short stories, and it is something which I'm not entirely sure how to fix, because some of these ideas, like this one, could easily become adapted into a larger novel. But we've been over this before. I have a problem keeping my attention span on one story idea for long enough to make it a novel. So if this feels more like an excerpt of an idea of a larger tale, then I hope that's what you enjoyed. I think A Waxwork Purgatory is more of a self-contained short story, and I will try and write more proper short stories with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But if I want to write something that's feels like it could be expounded upon, I'm not going to restrict myself from doing that, because at the end of the day I'm doing this because I want to flex my creative muscles and because I want to build worlds and create stories, and that's what this is. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next month for something completely different.